Guys, I'm back to review a video called 11 Years of Eating Only Fruit. Here's what happened. I'm sitting here with a nice plate of raw ground beef, grass fed, grass finished. Okay, let's give this a whirl.
Told me he's been a fruitarian for I think 11 years. So I was super stoked about this, wanted to hear about it. So here along with me, let's get into it. Hey David, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. So 11 years fruitarian.
11 years.
Wow, and you have a great head of hair.
Thank you.
Like I interview some people and they're like, oh, you go fruitarian, you're going to lose your hair, but you're not losing your hair.
Oh, no, it's...
Right off the bat, it's interesting that she says that fruitarians can lose their hair, because obviously if that's true and fruitarians are losing their hair, then that would be a sign that that diet might not be a species appropriate diet for Homo sapiens.
It grows more, yeah.
Wow, and can I ask how old you are? 'Cause people are gonna
39.
ask. Wow, amazing. Yeah. Okay, so 11 years fruitarian. Why eating only fruit?
Well, it really started when I was a child. I remember that I really had...
I feel like that she probably doesn't do that diet, but I could be wrong. He looks a lot more skinny compared to her. Usually fruitarians aren't the most well-built of people. They tend to be a lot more skinny. But like, to be honest, as someone who eats raw meat, I'm interested to know if there's any overlap between the arguments we make, because I know obviously fruitarians, they're not cooking their fruit, so they tend to be people who are promoting like raw food from a plant-based point of view. I obviously reject plant-based eating. I do a raw carnivore diet, but it'd be interesting to see if there's any crossover.
Like a lot of rejection for not only meat but animal products. By the age of 5 or 6, I was already using glycerin soap, like vegetable glycerin soap, and it was something that, it didn't feel right to be eating animals.
Unfortunately, there's two areas here: the ethical argument for or against eating animals, and whether it's right to kill animals for food. But then there's the nutrient-based approach, where you look at the essential micronutrients that human beings need to survive. And obviously, if you aren't consuming meat, then the question becomes, where are you getting carnosine and creatine, your heme iron, vitamin B12, taurine, carnitine, vitamin A, and bioavailable zinc. That's obviously an issue if you're eating only fruit, but again, I'm open to being proved wrong or to being given evidence that you can get those micronutrients on a fruitarian diet, but I'm not aware of any evidence that you can.
My parents wanted to give me the best that they could with the elements, so eventually I went back to a regular diet and meat and all these things. But after
like he said, his parents loved him, so they wanted him to eat meat. That makes sense.
Athlete career with a high protein and all this, I started with a lot of health issues, and I started taking things out. It was never my goal to become a fruitarian. I didn't even know what a fruitarian was, but little by little, taking things out. And my journey, like when I was just living on fruits, I was building my house, brick and cement in Argentina, and I thought I was gonna make a huge kitchen and then after 6 months of like really enduring a lot of physical work, I was like, wait, I've been eating only bananas and mandarins, and I feel better than ever before, and some walnuts every now and then, and
So you noticed a difference in how you feel? Like you feel better fruitarian?
Absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
wow.
That obviously begs the question, what was his previous diet? Because if he had been living on, McDonald's and junk food prior to going fruitarian, it's likely that he might see a short-term benefit. It's interesting that he's saying that he's been doing fruitarian for 11 years. Obviously he can say that, and that could well be true, but often you wonder, are there other things going on? Is he eating other foods other than fruits? Is he strictly eating fruit? Does he occasionally have fish, or does he occasionally sneak in some chicken or something? Because this has happened with other vegans in the past. But it's interesting, right? Like, he's still alive. He's a skinny guy, but he's still alive. He's still got his hair. And if he has been eating only fruit for 11 years, that's quite intriguing. I know I'm someone from the Northern Hemisphere. I'm somebody who very much needs like meat in my diet. I don't really feel good at all eating plants. oranges, bananas, pineapples, they don't even grow in the Northern Hemisphere. So why would I eat those? How could a doctor tell me that those are essential for me to have 5 fruits a day when those fruits don't even grow in my country? So yeah, it's interesting to discuss this.
I feel I have not only what I feel, but I can like I have much more energy now than when I was like 22, 23. You know, training and on a high protein diet and all these things. Now I can like I drive fast for a day and then go on a half marathon run and all these things that I like
Yeah.
the energy bursts are huge.
And so, what does a typical day of eating look like?
So he's saying he feels better than being on a high protein diet, but the critics of the fruitarian diet would say he's still on a protein diet, but his body's just eating his own protein, because obviously if you're not taking in exogenous protein, then your body has certain protein requirements, and therefore your body fat and even your muscle mass gets atrophied as your body utilizes your own muscle, your own protein, your own fat as a fuel source.
Well, no food in the morning typically, so it's like close to noon. Eating whatever fruit is available. Sometimes it could be like my most go-to if I'm traveling are bananas,
Yeah.
ripe ones, and whatever fruit it's available. A lot, like 2 bags of apples or whatever, and then eating a second time 4 or 5 hours before going to sleep.
Yeah, so he wants to eat ripe bananas, so it's basically sugar and fiber and water. It's interesting how versatile the human body is, that he hasn't literally died yet, living on sugar, fiber, and water. So it makes me want to learn more about his diet, even though it's something I couldn't see myself doing at all.
Like another
Like
typical
stopping 4 or 5 hours before going to bed?
yeah, like having a meal 4 or 5
Yeah.
hours before going
And
to
then
sleep.
you don't eat after that.
And then no food for at least 16 hours or so.
See,
yeah.
that's really important to me. Why do you think that's important to stop eating before bed? Like, not eat right up until you go to bed, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because in that way we allow our body to, if we are digesting, we're spending a lot of energy. So it's either digestion or repair.
I think the discussion around when you should eat vis-a-vis sleep differs depending on the diet, because I always think of a lion. He has a good feed on some red meat, then his body gets the message like, okay, I'm satiated, I'm nourished, and then the body's happy to just fall into a sleep. And I enjoy too that feeling of having, or I find that if I have a better sleep when I eat red meat just before going to sleep. Maybe not 5 minutes before going to sleep, but near to my sleep. If you're trying to process indigestible fiber, if you're trying to process plants in your body, which might be more challenging for your body or more labor for your body, then that's a different discussion. Maybe you do have to manage your sleep and your meals in a certain way. So it's interesting from my perspective, I feel that eating raw meat, it just is so bioavailable and so appreciated by my body. Most of what I'm eating is just going to be absorbed, and very little is going to be expelled by my body. And so because of that, I think I have a different relationship between food and sleep in my case.
You go to sleep, your body gets into a repair mode. So it's very important to honor that cycle of your body so you can repair. And then in the morning when you wake up, you're like your phone, I say. You're fully charged. You have energy. So you have to spend energy before putting more energy into your body, and that flow allows you for rapid healing and also strengthen your immune system.
Yeah, it does. I notice a huge difference. If I stop eating like hours before bed or right up until bed, it's like a game changer.
Absolutely.
Like last night I ate right before bed and I was not feeling good this morning.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So you think you're going to live this lifestyle forever? Like this
I not only about this, but I can talk a little bit about dry fasting as well.
Yeah,
That
so you do
it's
some
like,
dry fasting? Wow.
I do. Like I just finished a 5 days, 10 days ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, fasting, it's an interesting debate. Critics of fasting say that you're just starving yourself. I think from a carnivorous point of view, like, would we have had an animal being hunted every single day? Or would we have, gone through a kind of feast and famine relationship with our food? I think probably, you know, I would say that I would catch an animal. I would have a massive feed and then I might not get one for 2 days. So maybe it makes sense to fast. On the other hand, if you have access to food in the supermarket in the modern world, why sort of scare your body that you're hungry and starving and desperate? You know, is that a good idea? Does it raise your cortisol levels and so on? Again, from a plant-based perspective, is it a good idea to give your body a rest from processing, you know, so many indigestible foodstuffs? It's probably not a bad idea, right? So the carnivore and the vegetarian or vegan might have a different approach to fasting based on what they're consuming, right?
I think that, you know, your body, especially when you're traveling, because I had to like drive from Florida to the coast and on a mission, and I feel that it's very important that, like, you know,
Yeah, so he's in Florida, right? Getting a lot of sunlight. Fair enough if you want to have an orange or something, but those oranges don't grow in like much of the world in the northern hemisphere, nor do the bananas that you eat. So how would my ancestors have been innately designed to be eating foods that don't even grow where they live? That's what I want to know.
have the food available or we need to take a break, and there's a lot of that I can talk about the spiritual practice of it, but also, like, you know, like being okay with no food for a day or two, and you know, and keep on going with our lifestyle, because sometimes when we're traveling we don't have accessibility to the foods that we like, and I think it's very important not to settle to whatever is available, but just to consume your inner your inner energy, and know that you can keep on going.
It's a big difference spiritually. And what would you say, like, fruitarian have been the most benefits? What have been like all the benefits that you experience on that lifestyle, and like how it's changed your life?
It changed my life in many aspects. I think that we like, people say you are what you eat. I want to correct that, or maybe not correct, to give my perspective. You are you, but you carry the energy of what you consume. So what you consume, if you believe in vibrational frequencies, like the vibrational frequencies of what you consume with your eyes.
I don't believe in vibrational frequencies. So for me, the questions around the pros and cons of this diet is based on the micronutrient profile of the different foods. Obviously, I do wonder if this individual is supplementing in order to be able to do it for 11 years, because again, there's this laundry list of micronutrients which are either not bioavailable or are just completely absent when you're eating a fruitarian diet. But, you know, maybe that's a good place to stop at, because if he's going to transition into spirituality, that's not really an area I usually weigh in on. So yeah, well, thanks for listening to this reaction video, and I'm going to carry on eating my grass-fed, grass-finished raw meat. You know, I think it's important to have conversations between the different dietary tribes, because I think, you know, to be fair, it's good that people are thinking about their diet and thinking how the standard American, standard Western diet is deficient, which it is. In fact, that might be the worst diet of all the standard Western diet in many ways. You know, obviously, if he's on a fruitarian diet, he's not having seed oils, he's not eating deep fried foods. Like, there's positives as well as negatives. But yeah, obviously, you know, in many ways, I want to do these reaction videos to provoke questions. I don't necessarily have all the answers, but the main question would be, obviously, where are you getting all the nutrients that I listed earlier in the video from? Are you supplementing? If you are supplementing, then obviously that can't be argued to be the natural human diet. If you're doing this for ethical reasons, then that's a different discussion, because then you're not claiming that this is the optimal diet for Homo sapiens. You're just claiming that it's nice to animals to do this diet, which is a different debate. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. See you next time.